Welcome to the Tatum Christian Variety Show, brought to you by Tatum Creative. Your host, Nicholas Tatum, is ready to have fun with you.
Greetings and God bless. Every episode starts with the trivia. The trivia will be answered at the end of the show to give you time to think it over and see if you can get it right. Without further ado, here is your trivia.
Who am I? I asked God for wisdom instead of riches. I became the wisest king Israel ever had. Who am I?
Oh my, that light is blinking again. I guess it's time to check my voicemails.
Voicemail messages. You have one new message. Press 1 to listen. Press.
Hey, Nick, this your boy. The one you call prodigal? What does that even mean? I never looked it up. What is a prodigal? Look, I know last month I was riding high on a horse and I invited you to that party that you never showed up to. You don't know what you missed. That party was lit. But right now, I kind of need some help, man. I'm kind of homeless and I'm kind of hungry. If you could just give me some food, that would be enough, man. Please, man, I need this. You know what? I've been watching these pigs for less than minimum wage. Hard to turn one of them into bacon or roast ham or some of this stuff like they be having at my father's house. I'm just scared if they catch me, I'm going to have to pay with my hands. All my life, I'm not trying to make it my last meal. You know what? I could just eat what the pigs are eating. I bet nobody's paying attention to how much of that is going to the pigs. Yeah, that would be free food with no penalties. Oh my gosh. What have I done with my life? I'm gonna let you go, man. I'm having a moment. I'll hit you back later.
Message complete. To hear the message again, press 1. To delete the message, press 2. To skip this message, press 3.
Now it's time for Holy or Common. This is the part of the show where you have 10 seconds to determine whether the phrase I give you next is in the Bible or if it's just a common saying. Here we go. You reap what you sow. Is it in the Bible? This comes from Galatians 6 and 7. It's used constantly in life, giving life advice, parenting, and financial conversations. But this phrase is from the Bible.
The views expressed in this program do not necessarily represent the views of CWC Digital Radio Network.
Greetings and God bless. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Nicholas Tatum, and I'm here to have fun with you. Okay, maybe you can learn a little something if you listen to my rambling. Today, we're going to be rambling about something fairly specific. We're going to be reading in Matthew 16, and I want to talk about this thing that happened with Peter. Which thing, you might add, because a couple of things did happen to Peter. But let's talk from this one. Verse 21. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Never, Lord, he said, this shall not happen to you. Jesus turned and said to Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Ouch, ouch, ouch. It hurt just as much this time to hear it. I say that because of how it feels to me when I humanize this part of the scripture, which is what this particular thing is going to be about. I want to humanize it and look at it from different points of view and relate it to actual real life and how we interact with one another and how life is for us. I've done it before in a previous episode, and I promise you I'll probably do it again because I like adding the human element to the Bible. It's already there. We just have to take time and think about what's really being said and how people may have felt and what may have been going on. Now, anything that I say that you don't agree with, you don't think that this person felt that way, or you don't think that this possibly went this way or something of the such, that's perfectly fine. This is just me trying to humanize it and giving you a little bit of context so that as you're reading the Bible, you can also humanize things and make them more relative to your life. Because the whole point is for us to be able to make the word and to make the things that are being said to us in the Bible real and lifelike so that we can feel what's really going on. That being said, let's talk about Peter. Let's talk from his point of view first. What must Peter have been feeling? He just pulled Jesus, the Messiah, aside and told him, "No, sir, this stuff will not be happening to you." What was he doing there? How dare you confront Jesus and tell Jesus that he's not telling the truth? Because if you boil it down, that's what it is. He's basically confronting Jesus and telling him that what you're telling me right now is not the truth. How do you tell the truth that it is not telling the truth? That is really bold, but I'll tell you how we got there. Peter wasn't just trying to be some bold guy who was in charge of everything. He loved Jesus. The reason he was able to carry on the ministry after Jesus' death, resurrection, and then his going away till he comes back again was because he loved Jesus. He believed in the things that he saw. Remember who it was that stepped out onto the water. It wasn't the rest of the disciples. It was Peter. Now, did he sink? Yeah, he sank just a little bit. That may have happened a little bit, But at the same time, he had an affinity for Jesus. This was his friend, his master, his teacher. And if he could do anything to keep his master alive, he knew he was going to do it. He just knew that nothing would be able to stop him from stopping others from hurting his master, from hurting his friend, from hurting his teacher, the Messiah, as he believed him to be. When Jesus asked the question, who was it that volunteered and said, "You are the Messiah"? That's right. You got that answer right. I know you got it right. I can't hear you, but I can hear you. I know you said Peter. So you got that answer right. So it was Peter. Peter loved Jesus. And when you hear your friend talking what I'm sure Peter interpreted as sort of a depression type of thing or something of a just talking bad. You know how people sometimes say, "Oh, you need to speak good over yourself. You need to speak life over yourself instead of all this doom and gloom and all this stuff you speaking." It's just like that. Peter is trying to tell Jesus, "No, sir, this isn't going to happen to you." And think about it. There was more than just 12 disciples. They had lots of people around them. So he probably felt pretty secure in his comments when he was saying, "Oh, no, sir, we're not going to let that happen to you." But Jesus, even though he knew Peter was trying to love on him, he had to tell him the truth. And he said, "Get thee behind me, Satan, for you don't have the things of the kingdom in mind. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." I know that had to hurt Peter, but it had to be said, because the truth is the truth. This was one of those unchangeable things, and Jesus knew it. But can you imagine how that felt to Peter? You're sitting there trying to take up for your friend, and they outright call you the devil. Although I don't believe Jesus was calling him the devil, I believe he was talking about how the enemy was trying to work through Peter. No different than when he took him up on the hill and tried to get him, to tempt him to those different things when he was fasting and so forth and so on. No different, only he was using the mouth of Peter. So Jesus quickly identified what the problem was, and then he actually spoke to that problem. He said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Yeah, Peter was the one who said it. And yeah, technically, Jesus was rebuking Peter, but he clearly said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." He didn't say, "Get thee behind me, Peter," because you don't have the things of God in mind. He said Satan. And that means that he was actually talking to the devil. But being that Peter is a man just like you and I, how many of us want to be looked at and especially told by someone we admire or love and who we're willing to apparently die for, or at least we think we're willing to die for? How many of us want to be told, "Get thee behind me, Satan"? Don't call me Satan. I love you. Why are you calling me Satan? I'm trying to protect you. His feelings had to be hurt in all kinds of different degrees, not to mention manly pride. Oh, we know about pride. In front of all the other disciples, You tell me, get thee behind me, Satan? Okay, maybe it wasn't in front of all the other disciples, but I'm sure in Peter's mind and in his heart, everybody else heard it too. And the reason I say it may not have been in front of them is because the word clearly says that Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. So I'm thinking that maybe they were aside to where others wouldn't have heard it, but there's still the possibility that others were around and heard when Jesus said, "Get thee behind me, Satan," straight to Peter's face. That could hurt your pride. That can hurt all sorts of things inside of you. But that's not the only point that we need to look at. We also need to look at Jesus's point of view. And this one is a whole lot of speculation on my part. But I know that Jesus loves us all. And I believe that he especially loved those that he was with. And I'm not saying he loves them more than he loves us, but I know he put love and attention into those that he was with while he was here on earth. They have special places in heaven, rulerships over tribes and things of the such. So I know he placed some specialness upon them. And he was enjoying his time with them, showing them the way and knowing, just like even Paul said, I desire to be with God, but at the same time, I know that if I stay here, I'll be more beneficial to you. Jesus knows he could be more beneficial to them, teach them more things, show them the way a little bit more. And he knows that his time is coming where he won't be there to train them. There were things that were keeping him wanting to stay with them. But he made sure he reminded himself of what the truth was, doing the Father's will. He knew that he was going to suffer many things and he was going to die. I believe, or at least like to believe, that Jesus had to go ahead and say, "Get behind me, Satan," because this was an actual temptation to him. He had a temptation to want to stick around and stay with them. And we know that Jesus has all power. So if he really wanted to change things, there's a possibility he could have changed things. I know he could have. I know it. I know it wasn't part of the plan and that it was already said that he was the perfect sacrifice, so he wouldn't do it. But knowing that he wouldn't do it doesn't mean that he couldn't do it. And there was some part of him that wanted to stay with his disciples. Some part of him that wanted to stay and continue the ministry and continue the work, giving people healing, freeing them from demonic possession and all sorts of things that are being inflicted upon them by the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all those that were tainting the word. He wanted to stick around a bit. You can tell because of the whole Garden of Gethsemane. He didn't want to go through being whipped and beaten and thrown on the cross and all of the things that were going to have to happen. Those were things that had to happen, not things that he was just chomping at the bit to get to. That's the part that he didn't necessarily want. He asked his Father, "Is there any other way? Can we change this? Can we rewrite this? Can we make it something different?" So there was a part of him that wanted to not go through that. And then here's my friend, thinking they're being a friend, coming to me and saying exactly what my flesh wants to hear. My flesh wants to hear, "You can stay. You're going to be safe. We'll make sure to save you." But that's not what the Spirit needed. So Jesus made the right decision and actually rebuked his friend so that his friend could know, I am going to do the will of my Father who sent me. Now, I don't believe that Peter was wrong for wanting to protect Jesus. And I surely don't believe that Jesus was wrong for correcting him in such a stern manner. Because I don't even think of it as a correction as much as I think of it as Jesus making sure that he held to the standard that he was being held to. He made sure Satan knew, you're not going to get me through my friends and you're not going to get me through any other means. I will do the work of him who sent me. And that's something that we need to be able to do as well. We need to be able to confidently say to those things that are trying to hinder us and stop us from doing so, that I will do the work of him who sent me. Hey, if you enjoyed any portions of this show, you might find yourself interested in my book series. The Jesus Freak book series is a 4-book series that'll help you get deeper in your faith through story and action. You can find out more about it at www.officialjesusfreak.com. And you can also reach me at info@officialjesusfreak.com. Be sure to use TCVS or Tatum Christian Variety Show as the subject line. Until next time, trust God with the impossible and live your faith boldly. Here's the answer for your trivia today. I'm sorry that I kept you waiting, but let's see how you did.
Who am I? I asked God for wisdom instead of riches. I became the wisest king Israel ever had. Who am I? The answer is Solomon.
Did you get the answer right? This has been the Tatum Christian Variety Show, brought to you by Tatum Creative. Your host, Nicholas Tatum, wants you to have a blessed week.